All right, so I got a story here for you guys of some union workers who are going on strike in Topeka, Kansas at a Frito-Lay facility, and they're protesting some of the conditions that they have been subjected to, especially over the course of the pandemic. And I'm going to read to you from a firsthand testimony of one of these workers that he gave to Vice, and then I'm going to show you a really good video at around this time from More Perfect Union, and they put together an entire collage, and it's really kind of inspiring at the end. So if the beginning of this sounds depressing, then stick around to the end, because the workers seem to be recognizing that their power comes from collective action that they are taking by going on strike and things like this. So here's the first-hand testimony. I am a Frito-Lay factory worker. I work 12-hour days, 7 days a week. So absolutely ridiculous. He says, I've worked at the Frito-Lay facility or factory in Topeka, Kansas since I was 19, straight out of high school. I'm a palletizer. I run huge robots that are probably 15 or 20 feet tall, and they transport products that come from the production floor that's already been packaged, like Fritos, Doritos, Tostitos, and Cheetos. After 37 years, I still get forced to work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. 7 years ago, my wife passed away, and I spent a lot of time in grief counseling, and I told the company I don't want to work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Seems like a reasonable request, right? Well, no. I ended up getting FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act, unpaid leave, but they're still having me do it sometimes. You come in at 7 a.m. and not only do you work 8 hours, but when you get off at 3 p.m., they force you to work a double shift. You have to come back at 3 a.m. There's 850 employees, and it's true for half or 3/4 of them that are being forced to work these suicide shifts, as they call them. He says, this job wears you down, it tires you, it makes you mentally exhausted, it plays with your mind. Some of these guys who work 12 hours a day every day are destroying their marriages, they're destroying their families. My wife passed away, and I don't have a wife to go home to say, hey babe, I'm only working 8 hours tomorrow. But a lot of these guys come in with the understanding that they'll be here for 8 hours, but then they got to call their wives and say, guess what, it's not 8 hours, it's 12 hours, and I have to go back to work at 3 a.m. Frito-Lay has been told that they need to fix this, but unfortunately, when they bring in new people, they force the same schedule on them, and then they quit. Frito-Lay has been has waited so long to replace workers, and now Frito-Lay has a horrible reputation in town, so a lot of people don't go to work there. So understandably, a lot of people don't want to go work at this facility if you show up to work and immediately you're being subjected to these ridiculous shifts that no human being could ever possibly manage, in addition to having an actual life outside of work. And he continues, this is not a good job. At 7 a.m., our warehouse is 100 degrees. 100 degrees. We don't have air conditioning. Of course, the executives have air conditioning. He says we have cooks in the kitchen on the fryers that are at 130 or 140 degrees making chips and sweating like pigs. Meanwhile, the managers have AC, of course. So, I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. Over 100 degrees in the warehouse. They're working with kitchens that can get up to 130 to 140 degrees in the ovens. It's absurd that people are subjected to this. This should be illegal, obviously, but they continue. I can tell you that many people have had heart attacks in the heat at Frito-Lay since I've been there. One guy died a few years ago, and the company had people pick him up, move him to the other side, and put another person in his spot without shutting the business down for 2 seconds. It seems like I go to one funeral a year for somebody who's had a heart attack at work, or somebody who went home to their barn and shot themselves in the head or hung themselves. So really disturbing shit there. The stuff that they are being subjected to at this factory is absolutely unacceptable. It's inhumane. These are the types of things that even unionized workers in some cases are being subjected to. So this is ridiculous. I mean, if this is just one facility, we saw the stories that came out recently that we were talking about, obviously, at the Amazon facilities, where they had similar things like this, where they had problems with heat. They had no air conditioning units in the thing. We had another Amazon story, I think it was, where a worker literally in a similar capacity collapsed on the ground, and they left the body there for hours and hours and hours. So this is not something that's just unique to Frito-Lay. This is something that goes across, and this is what happens when you have gigantic corporations like Frito-Lay, which is owned by PepsiCo, who is the parent company of them, or Amazon, or any of these gigantic companies. They feel as though they treat their workers like they are cogs in a machine, like they are not human beings. No possible human being could ever be expected to be maintaining the types of shifts that these people have been doing. I mean, some of these people they're talking about have been working for 5 to 6 months straight with 0 days off and working these suicide shifts, as they call them. So it's completely ridiculous. No human could ever possibly manage to keep up with that. And here's a really good video that was put together by More Perfect Union, which I just want to play for you guys, because it gets a little bit into the specifics at the beginning there, and then at the end you see that the workers are starting to understand the dynamic that is at play there and how much strength and power they actually have in numbers. So here you go. Here's this video.
Company says, we're shocked they went on strike. How are you shocked? Did you think that we would go to 90 hours before we would hit the streets? Forced overtime causes divorces. It causes people to kill themselves that used to work here. Okay, there have been several employees that have killed themselves, okay, that have worked here over the years. Okay, this is a continual thing. It destroys marriages, it destroys families. 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 It destroys marriages, it destroys famili
we have to do something with the suicide shifts, because to work 12 hours and be off 8 and work 12 hours, you got time, travel time and everything. I said that's a safety risk.
Imagine being an employee in here that has not had a day off for 5 months. That is the reality of what you're seeing. That is the reality of why you're really seeing the picket over here.
4 or 5 years ago, we had a guy, and man, he was working all the time, and he stopped off at a rest stop on I-70, and he fell asleep, and he didn't wake up.
Company wants to call it a squeeze shift. It nothing squeezing about it. It's suicide.
Yeah, the point system is used to fire people.
We're getting penalized for taking time off.
I've had to cancel so many doctor appointments, dentist appointments, that I could not make them because of the forced overtime. Walking out the plant last second, hey, you're forced over. Things need to change. This is not a way you treat people.
My daughter made my sign, and the boot represents Frito-Lay, and under the boots is the people standing, which is us, the workers, the union. We can stop the boot. With the help of the community, with all the people in the union, yeah, we can do it. We can stop the boot.
We are seeing the impact of our unity now. There's no chips in the stores. They can barely get things up and running. But we now see our unity. We now see where our strength is. And I'm sure once we get to go back in there, which we will get to go back in there, we'll be stronger than before.
Right. So that was a really well put together video. I love that, and I love how they finish it off there. I mean, they're absolutely right there. Both of those workers at the end who are emphasizing the importance of collective action. I mean, you can see results, and you see the results in the fact that they are putting a stranglehold on production. This is where a lot of those chips that you see in the grocery stores and the gas stations and whatever are coming out of. And so they do have power in using their labor and their collective labor that they sell to their employer and withholding that labor so that the employer has to concede to some of their demands. And so they've also come out and asked that if you want to show solidarity with them, that you stop buying those products, stop buying all Frito products. Again, they listed them out before. It's the classic Doritos, Cheetos, all of those, etc., as well as Pepsi products in general, because that's, again, the parent company of this. So if you want to show solidarity with them while they are on strike, then boycott those products, stop using them, stop buying them. And then in addition to that, we have to keep emphasizing the importance of unions, because these are not actions they would be able to be taking collectively right now if it wasn't for a union that they have in place. So that's emphasizing the importance of unions. We have to continue to push for things like the PRO Act, the Protect the Right to Organize Act. That would be absolutely game-changing right now in the ability for a lot of workers at factories like this around the country to form unions. And so those are the types of things we should be focusing on. And yeah, all solidarity to these workers. I hope they get every single thing that they're demanding.